Some wins define a fighter's career. Others define an entire era. In the UFC, there are nights where everything clicks. Timing, precision, composure, and a fighter doesn't just win. They perform. From flawless title fights to pure domination, these are 12 of the greatest performances in UFC history. Explained. Jon Jones versus Mauricio Shogun Rua, UFC 128. At just 23 years old, Jon Jones stepped in as a late replacement to challenge Pride legend Mauricio Shogun Rua for the light heavyweight title. Rua was a proven champion, coming off a knockout win over Lyoto Machida. Jones was the rising phenom, flashy, unpredictable, but untested on the biggest stage. From the very first second, it was clear this wasn't going to be close. Jones opened with a flying knee that clipped Shogun and immediately started taking over. His range, kicks, and control of distance were unlike anything Rua had ever faced. Jones mixed elbows, front kicks, and takedowns, keeping Shogun guessing from every position. Midway through round one, he landed a hard knee to the body and followed with heavy punches that pushed the champion backward and kept him there. By round two, Jones was in complete control, catching a leg kick, driving Rua to the mat, and pounding away with elbows and short shots that broke him down piece by piece. Shogun was exhausted, breathing heavy, running out of answers. Then came the finish. Early in round three, Jones closed the distance, landed a crushing knee to the body, and that was it. Shogun collapsed to his knees. The referee waved it off at 2 minutes 37 seconds of the round. That night, Jon Jones didn't just win a title, he dismantled a legend and became the youngest champion in UFC history. Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin, UFC 101. Anderson Silva had already cemented himself as the middleweight GOAT, but moving up to face former light heavyweight champ Forrest Griffin was a real risk. The result looked like a video game on easy mode. Silva stood tall, hands down, slipping and countering with impossible timing. Griffin's punches whiffed past inches from Silva's chin, and each counter landed perfectly. Silva dropped him with a short right, let him stand, and then finished the fight with a single backstep jab that shut Forrest's lights out. Griffin literally sprinted from the cage in disbelief. It wasn't just a knockout, it was embarrassment. Silva showed a level of composure and reaction time that made elite fighters look amateur. That performance still defines the word untouchable. Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez, UFC 205. UFC 205 was historic. The first card in Madison Square Garden, and McGregor's shot at becoming the first two-division champ. The pressure was massive, but the execution was surgical. From the opening bell, Conor's timing was pure perfection. Alvarez lunged forward and McGregor made him pay. Counter left after counter left, dropping him 3 times within 2 rounds. The Irishman looked calm, almost playful, slipping punches, setting traps, and landing with sniper-level precision. Every shot was measured, every feint calculated. When Alvarez finally fell for the last time, McGregor ended it with a perfect 1-2 combination that sealed his place in history. There were no wild exchanges, no chaos, just total control from bell to bell. This was McGregor at his absolute peak, in a performance that still stands as one of the cleanest in UFC history. If you're enjoying these breakdowns so far, hit that like button and subscribe. 9 more legendary performances are coming up, and they only get better. Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar, UFC on ABC 1. By 2021, Holloway had lost his belt, but came into this fight determined to remind everyone who he was. Calvin Kattar was tough, skilled, and dangerous, and still, he couldn't touch him. Holloway put on one of the greatest striking displays the sport has ever seen. He threw 744 total strikes, landing a record-breaking 445 significant shots. He talked to commentary mid-fight, slipped punches while yelling, "I'm the best boxer in the UFC," and made Kattar miss by inches again and again. Every round looked the same. Volume, precision, control. Holloway varied his attacks. Head, body, leg, angle, repeat. Kattar's toughness kept him standing, but he was battered beyond recognition. That night, Holloway didn't just win, he gave a master class in how to dominate a world-class striker without ever slowing down. Amanda Nunes versus Chris Cyborg, UFC 232. Heading into UFC 232, Chris Cyborg was the monster no one wanted to face. Undefeated for 13 years, demolishing everyone. Amanda Nunes moved up in weight and didn't flinch for a second. From the opening bell, Nunes charged forward with controlled aggression, planting her feet and throwing with bad intentions. Within seconds, her right hand began finding Cyborg's chin again and again. Every exchange ended with Cyborg on the back foot, something we'd never seen. In just 51 seconds, Nunes landed the final clean right hook that dropped Cyborg flat. The ref stepped in, and just like that, a decade of dominance ended. That short burst of violence crowned Amanda as the first double champ in women's UFC history, and the undisputed queen of MMA. Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic, UFC 260. When Francis Ngannou first fought Stipe Miocic, the hype was enormous. The scariest puncher in the sport against the greatest heavyweight of all time. But when the fight started, Ngannou's inexperience showed. But when the rematch came, a new Ngannou walked into the octagon. Gone was the reckless brawler. In his place stood a calm, calculated striker with improved wrestling and ice-cold composure. The difference was obvious immediately. When Stipe shot for a takedown, Ngannou sprawled perfectly, circled behind, and punished him with brutal ground strikes. A statement that this time things would be different. He controlled the range, picked his shots, and waited for his moment. Midway through round 2, that moment came. As Stipe stepped in with a right hand, Ngannou countered with a lightning-fast left hook that folded the champion instantly. The knockout was clean, decisive, and symbolic. The rise of a disciplined predator who learned from his defeat. Ngannou didn't just win the belt that night. He conquered every doubt that followed him since their first fight. It was redemption. Violent, patient, and perfect. Demetrius Johnson versus Henry Cejudo, UFC 197. Mighty Mouse had already defended his belt multiple times, but this was supposed to be his toughest challenge. An Olympic gold medalist wrestler in Henry Cejudo. Instead, DJ took him apart like an engineer disassembling a machine. Every clinch exchange ended with knees to the body and head. Every scramble went DJ's way. He timed takedowns perfectly, then punished Cejudo with elbows and transitions that looked effortless. It was a complete shutout. A finish in under 3 minutes that left no doubt who the most technically complete fighter in the world was. Mighty Mouse didn't need to prove anything, but he still made a world-class athlete look lost. That's not just dominance, that's mastery. Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz, UFC 207. Leading into UFC 207, Dominic Cruz was viewed as untouchable, the most cerebral fighter in MMA, unbeaten for nearly a decade, and the master of footwork and deception. Cody Garbrandt was just 25, known more for knockout power than championship IQ. But from the opening round, Cody shocked everyone. He slipped punches with inches to spare, fired back crisp combinations, and even taunted Cruz mid-exchange. Hands down, smiling, dancing out of range. In round 2, Cody's timing sharpened. He started landing clean right hands that repeatedly rocked the champion. Cruz kept trying to adapt, but Garbrandt's speed and composure never wavered. By round 4, the former Team Alpha male prospect had completely flipped the script, dropping Cruz multiple times and showboating as the crowd exploded. But beneath the flash was discipline. Cody didn't get reckless. He stayed in control, picking his moments with surgeon-like precision. When the final horn sounded, the undefeated champion looked human for the first time in years. That night, Garbrandt didn't just win a title, he dismantled a master at his own game. A performance built on confidence, timing, and pure technical brilliance. TJ Dillashaw versus Renan Barão, UFC 173. From the opening bell, TJ Dillashaw made it clear this wasn't going to be a typical title defense for Renan Barão. It was going to be an ambush of skill. Dillashaw's movement was electric. He bounced in and out, constantly switching stances, throwing feints that froze Barão in place. In round 1, Dillashaw dropped the champion with a clean right hand, setting the tone for the rest of the fight. Barão never recovered his rhythm. Round after round, TJ's pace and creativity only increased. He blended striking and footwork with flawless flow, pivoting around Barão while peppering him with volume. Even when Barão threw back, TJ saw everything, slipping, countering, and circling away. By the 4th, Barão's face was battered and his corner looked helpless. Dillashaw poured it on in the 5th. A spinning back kick, a crisp combo, then an avalanche of strikes that forced the referee to step in. The underdog had not just beaten the champion, he'd taken him apart piece by piece. It was one of the most complete title performances in UFC history. Pure movement, precision, and mastery. Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor, UFC 196. 2 weeks notice, up in weight, no camp. When Nate Diaz stepped in against the biggest star in the sport, nobody gave him a chance. Conor came out sharp, landing bombs early and talking mid-fight. Diaz took it all, absorbed the power, and waited. Then in round 2, everything flipped. A crisp 1-2 rocked McGregor, and suddenly the Irishman was on his heels. Diaz pounced, dragged him down, and sunk in the rear naked choke. In one moment, the entire fight world erupted. It wasn't just an upset, it was the most human moment in UFC history. The underdog triumphed through toughness, grit, and experience. Nate's post-fight line said it all. "I'm not surprised, motherfuckers." A perfect storm of timing, chaos, and heart. Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya, UFC 293. Heading into UFC 293, almost nobody gave Sean Strickland a chance. He wasn't supposed to win, not against Israel Adesanya, one of the most technical strikers in MMA history. Analysts called it a mismatch. Fans expected a highlight reel. Even bookmakers had Strickland as one of the biggest underdogs in recent title fight history. But from the opening bell, everything we thought we knew went out the window. Strickland's pressure was immediate, his defense airtight. He marched forward behind a high guard, blocking kicks, checking strikes, and walking Izzy down with relentless composure. Adesanya looked hesitant, searching for openings that never appeared. Then, late in round 1, Strickland exploded with a crisp right hand that dropped the champion hard. The crowd gasped. The impossible suddenly looked real. From there, Sean never let off the gas. He kept a steady pace, jabbing, cutting angles, and keeping Izzy trapped on the back foot, a place we'd never seen him before. Adesanya couldn't adjust. Every round looked the same. Strickland pressing, Adesanya backing up, unable to find his rhythm. No one expected this, not even Strickland's harshest critics. When the final horn sounded, the world realized what had just happened. A man everyone counted out had outboxed a world-class striker over 5 full rounds. Sean Strickland didn't just pull off an upset, he shattered every prediction with a performance built on grit, pressure, and absolute belief. From Jones's domination to Strickland's shocker, these are the performances that define greatness. Not just winning, but how they won. Each one showed something different: timing, heart, discipline, or evolution. These fights remind us that in the UFC, perfection isn't about power. It's about performing under pressure when the world's watching. If you made it this far, hit subscribe, drop a comment with your favorite all-time performance, and join us as we keep breaking down the moments that shape this sport.